All right, we can now start our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. We at Passcode Global Consultants, we are so glad to have you here and to learn more as we embark in this journey of nurse migration, and also as we train people on the NCLEX program. So on today's webinar, we are discussing the emerging issues in nurse migration. That is on our webinar today. And we're having a very, very interactive session. We're looking forward to a very interactive session for the next 2 hours. I believe that we will not be leave here the same way we've come. Then we have a panel with us that will be presenting. So we will first hear from a presentation from our director, that is from Humphrey, who is an NCLEX tutor, as well as also a director at Passcode Global. So he's going to take us through key topics that we are looking forward to cover today. Among the topics are changes in NCLEX, as we are all aware that we're having the next update test plan coming up from 1st of April. So he's very well equipped and ready to empower us with knowledge and what we're supposed to know and what is happening, what is yet to come. Then he's also going to take us through the USRN pathways, the current global trends. So many have been said, and a lot of things are online, and others we've had them being said by Trump himself. So he's going to give us clarity and also tell us more on what is trending, and also clear our doubts on those of us who have dreams to going to global, but going to work in the US. So that's another topic that he's going to share with us. Then there's also nursing migration to Germany and Austria. We also have that pathway. We have the USRN pathway and we have the German and Austria pathway. He's also going to share with us on those topics. Then we will also have a panelist who will join us just to have you hear from the horse's mouth. She's one of the students that we have worked with. We've helped her to pass her NCLEX exam. So she's going to share her journey, her stories, and also any questions that you might be having. She's also going to let you know, answer all your questions. So keep your questions coming. You can just type your questions on the chat box and we'll be able to get to answer the questions. So without taking much time, to welcome Humphrey Konge to take us through and just to give us a brief of what's going to happen in the next 2 hours. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mary Sylvia. I hope I can be heard. Can someone confirm whether you can hear me? And I'll be glad to proceed. Yeah, so I can see some confirmations on the chat. How are you guys? How is everyone? Maybe you can, before I present, you can say hi to your colleagues on the chat box. Or I know we may not be able to speak, all of us, but let us know that you are there and that you can hear. You can say something on the chat box. Keep your questions coming on the chat box. We are going to be answering them as we proceed. We have the team from Passcode in the meeting, and some of them will be answering the questions, your questions, as we proceed. So even before I present, I would like to hear maybe from you. You can raise your hand. We are going to allow you to speak. We would like to hear what concerns do you have considering the recent happenings with the USRN pathway. Of course, it goes without saying that there has been some worries, anxiety out there. What questions do you have? What concerns do you have What fears do you have? What assurances do you have? So our moderator said that this is going to be an interactive session. So even before I do my presentation, do we have anyone who wants to ask a question? You raise your hand, we promote you to a panelist, you ask your question, or you can send your question on chat box. There's a place for question and answer. There's also the chat box where you can ask your question. Anyone wants to ask a question or to say something before I present? As I wait for someone, I'll be answering a question that was asked earlier. Earlier, it was asked, just want to find out if there is a course content for NCLEX. Okay, course content for NCLEX. That is a very good question. And I'm going to start answering that question even before I go to my presentation. As I wait to see whether there are some people who have want to ask a question so that I can incorporate what you will ask as I do my presentation. So, thank you so much to the attendee who asked that question. Yes, there is a course content for NCLEX, a very elaborate course content. Very elaborate course content for NCLEX. And the course content for NCLEX is actually prescribed by a body called NCSBN, National Council of Nurses, National Council of State Boards of Nursing. The state boards of nursing in the US come together to form a body which is called NCSBN, and the NCSBN is the owner of NCLEX. Is the body that deals with everything to do with NCLEX. The boards register you, the boards give you a license if you pass. But NCLEX RN and NCLEX PN, they are registered trademarks of NCSBN. And NCSBN has prescribed a curricula for NCLEX. Because if you go to a state of California, you'll find some practice of nursing there that are not allowed in the state of Texas. If you go to Minnesota, for example, you find some things that are allowed so that licensed practical nurses can do, which they cannot do in other states. So there are usually differences between a state and another in terms of nurse practice. And that is why for each of the states, you have to be familiar with what we call Nurse Practice Act, NPAs. Every state has their own rules on nurse practice. So NCSBN had to prescribe a curricula so that if you studied nursing in Texas, you studied nursing in Minnesota, you studied nursing in Colorado, and you are doing NCLEX, all of you are being subjected into a standard exam that tests the same things. So, us at Passcode Global Consultants, when we were developing, and even now as when we are reviewing our curriculum for NCLEX, we usually follow the prescription given by the NCSBN. That is what we follow, and it has been very effective following it. In the previous webinar, for those who are there, I said that at Passcode, we don't teach only the hard topics, hard in quotes. We teach everything according to the curriculum of NCSBN. And that is why if you're coming from Passcode, you go to the NCLEX exam, you will not struggle because we prepare you with everything that we are supposed to prepare you with. So the answer is yes, these are very elaborate curriculum course content for NCLEX. And if you are in this webinar, you are in the Passcode NCLEX review program. I want to refer you to orientation day one. Orientation day one. For those who joined in November, it will be orientation day one. For the other classes, orientation day two, where we talk about we review the Passcode NCLEX review curriculum. So when you look at that Passcode NCLEX review curriculum, you'll find that we have outlined what you're supposed to cover. What that passcode table gives you is exactly what you are supposed to cover, and you are done with NCLEX. It is a summary of the NCSBN NCLEX curriculum. And as we proceed, therefore, what we do is that we break it down. We break it down to give you the specific content that you need. So I think I've answered that question, and therefore, without further ado, I will request that we go to the presentation. I've seen some of the questions that you are asking, which we are going to answer as we proceed with the presentation. So for those who are new in this platform, my name is Humphrey Konge, a nurse by profession, a registered nurse in the Republic of Kenya, also a registered nurse in the USA, in the state of Texas, endorsement state of Virginia, and at Passcode Global Consultants, I am a proud teacher of NCLEX, RN, and IELTS. And besides that, I also do what we call support for people who are testing, so that even when I'm not teaching, then I am making calls to know your progress and also to advise here and there, not only in NCLEX revision, but also in USRN processes. So in other words, I can say that I'm a consultant when it comes to NCLEX and USRN pathways, advising you how to navigate your employment, advising you how to deal with terminations, for example, if in the unfortunate cases of those who get terminated, advising you, for example, you may find that someone was doing NCLEX with an agency and they don't pass with the first attempt, they don't know where to start. We get you and we help you to navigate through the process, and many other things and challenges that come along with the USRN pathways. So I've been doing this for 5, going to 6 years now, and so far so good. It's something I love doing. So let's just know who we are. Passcode Global Consultants, our mission is to empower nurses and prepare them for international markets. Empower nurses, prepare them for international markets. We usually want to distinguish ourselves by offering highly professional, very professional guidance of very high class. And therefore, we work with experts in different areas. Like for those who do job search with us, we subject the interpretation of their contracts to legal experts, just to ensure that before they sign that contract, they know what exactly they are signing. So we take what we do with a lot of seriousness. And so along this, we have services that we offer on the USRN pathway, including NCLEX registrations and NCLEX revision. So for NCLEX registrations, we help you with your CGFNS, that is credentialing processes, assisting you to choose a board of nursing. And recently you have probably experienced some instances where people just choose a board of nursing blindly, and once they do the application, the application is denied. They are told that they cannot test, and they end up spending money, time, and it is not a good experience. But Passcode, what we do is that before we register you with that particular board of nursing, we ensure that we have analyzed your transcripts. We do what we call matching. So we have a team, an expert-led team for NCLEX registrations, who are able to scrutinize and actually decide or help you decide which is the best board of nursing for you. Okay, so On the same line of NCLEX USRN pathway, we teach the English proficiency programs such as IELTS, a PTE, OET, TOEFL, depending on which one your agency will want you to do. So Rahul TY, I can see your hand is up. And at this point, we are done with that part of hand being up. So please allow me to present, and you can ask a question when we get to question and answer session. But as well, you can send your question on chat, and our team will be responding to those questions as we proceed. So apart from the USRN pathway, we also have German language. German language helps nurses to move into different countries that speak German, including Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and partially Luxembourg. Yeah, so we will also be shortly, briefly be telling you about this, especially for those who may be interested, and also for your colleagues who are interested in these pathways. Yeah, so let's go to the main content of today's webinar. We are talking about NCLEX 2026 test plan. Now, for those of you who have attended my classes, I happen to be the person who teaches NCLEX 2023 test plan, and therefore that is an area that I have mastered. If you look at the NCLEX 2023 test plan, that is when we migrated from the classic NCLEX type to what we call NGN, the new generation of NCLEX. A new generation of NCLEX was not the test plan for 2023 to 2026. A new generation NCLEX was a major shift in the way the NCLEX examination is structured. It is a major shift in time, and therefore that shift is going to be implemented in the next test plans, like 10 test plans that we'll be having. That is 2026, 2029, 2032, I think. Every 3 years, the NCLEX changes. So the NCLEX changes every 3 years. So you can see that we are moving from 2023 test plan, which was done in 2023, 4 and 5, and now 2026, we are moving into another test plan that will be implemented for 3 years. Okay. So every 3 years, the NCSBN, who is the owner of NCLEX, announces how the NCLEX is going to change. And this is information you can access if you want from the NCSBN website. So any nurse who wants to move to the US or who is doing the processes of moving to the US must make NCSBN as one of the websites that they are visiting frequently to see what is changing, what is happening in the nursing field, what is changing in regards to nursing in the US. This person should also be interested to understand what is happening in the US in regards to nursing, employment for nursing, and anything related to nursing in the USA, because now your aim is to become a nurse in the US. So let's look at key confirmations. The new test plan is going to be implemented from April 2026 because the 2023 test plan is going to be stopped by the end of March 2026. So if for you who are in this webinar, for those of you who will not have done NCLEX by March 2026, end of March 2026, March 31st, you are going to do the new test plan, which is for 2026. So it is important for you to be knowing that. But I want you to know that apart from 2023 test plan, when it was changing, whereby there was a major change, this one is not going to have a major change. You know, the person who was preparing for NCLEX in 2023 March, by March, they had not done the exam and they were already preparing such that they were to do the new generation NCLEX. They had to take some time first to understand the format, the grading, the standard of passing of the new generation NCLEX that was starting in 2023. But as of now, since you guys are studying the new generation NCLEX, yeah, and the exam is just slightly changing. It will still be the new generation NCLEX. There will just be slight changes. Then I don't think anyone has great. There's no need for big worries for anyone who probably, for one reason or another, will not have tested by March 2026. Now, the other thing is that if you are in Passcode, the Passcode NCLEX review program, for such a change, we usually start implementing it early enough so that if, for example, now we have a class that is starting on January 12th, for that class, it is almost true to say that no one of them will be testing probably by March, unless those who will join the class when they already have an ATT. So for such people, we will start teaching them with a mindset of the new test plan that is starting, the NCLEX 2026 test plan. That is what we will be using to teach them. Even for those who will be in our programs, and probably they started learning earlier, and for one reason or another they delayed their testing, we usually do such kind of information sessions to inform them and to prepare them for the NCLEX examination, the new format is coming up. So if you go to lecture 1, Passcode, lecture 1 in orientation lecture 1, because with the Passcode NCLEX review program, the first week we do what we call orientation. So if you go to the first lecture, which most of the times it is me who teaches that lecture, we talk about how the NCLEX works. And before I get you to how the NCLEX works, we usually talk about the test plan for 2023. Now, if you look at that test plan, you will appreciate and agree with me that what we have there majors on safety, clinical judgment, and with the new generation NCLEX, we have case-based scenarios. Now, the good thing is that with the 2026 test plan, those are going to be maintained, but with an emphasis on technology and case-based scenarios and safety. So those are going to be maintained. What you have in the 2023 test plan are going to be maintained, but with an emphasis on safety, case-based scenarios, and clinical judgment. Clinical judgment goes hand in hand with critical thinking. NCLEX is an exam for critical thinking. There will be minor changes though, like for the domain of safety and infection prevention, SECE. It is now going to be called Safety and Infection Prevention and Control. So just a wording change without alterations on content, because the content is going to remain the same. There's also going to be some redefined activity statements, some minor word changes. Content, not major changes, but also in terms of the way the exams are structured, there's going to be very slight, very minor changes. In fact, for this plan, the major change that we have been waiting for is a change where people would be allowed to do the exam at home. It's called a proctored exam. So where you just go to your room and you have the computer and your camera on, and you're able to check, to scan your room, check everything, you do your exam in your room. That is what they had suggested. But so far, they have not allowed that. So we are still waiting to see whether such a thing is going to happen in the future. So the exam formats, computer adaptive testing is going to remain the same, ending at 85 to 150. The 70 to 135 year should not confuse you, because 15 questions are usually called unscored questions. Unscored questions. So the major content questions that you do are usually 70 to 135. Moderator, you did not tell me how much time you're giving me, so I need to control myself.
Yes, Humphrey, we are well. We're proceeding on well. I think we're giving you 1 hour maximum because the content is elaborate. Then 30 minutes for questions and answers, and then we'll give 15 minutes to our guests. That is Susan.
Okay. I may not need a whole 1 hour, so maybe after I'm done, Susan can come in, then we go to Q&A. All right. So I hope you guys are following. Can I tell me on chat whether you are following? Let me see on chat.
Yes, Humphrey, I can
Yes.
see. And also, we're receiving more questions. So I believe people are very attentive.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Benedict. Thank you, Kevin. All right, let's proceed. So exam format, as I have said, 7135, those are content questions I usually get. 15 questions are called unscored questions. But of course, when you go to the NCLEX, you're not going to see that this is an unscored question. You'll not be told. So you have to do your questions up to a minimum of 85 and a maximum of, or a maximum of 150. The domains that you do are going to remain the same. They have not been changed. And NCLEX tests 15 domains. It is important for you to know the 15 domains that NCLEX tests. Let me give you a very good breakdown that will enable you to know them. And if you find us a challenge knowing them, you can always get in touch with us and ask through our NCLEX number. So our NCLEX number is +254 726 311 477. When you have NCLEX questions, you can ask through that number, or you send to us through the email nclex@Passcode Consultants. So I am talking about 15 domains that NCLEX 2023 test plan tests, which will be maintained in NCLEX 2026. Now, the first 8 of the 15 are what we call client needs categories. I believe you have seen client needs categories, especially in Passcode Lecture 1. Before we talk about how NCLEX works, we talk about those domains. 8 client needs categories. So number 1 to 8 of the 15 domains comes from that. Then number 9 is what we call clinical judgment. Clinical judgment carries with itself critical thinking, and that is usually integrated in the questions. And then the remaining 6 are the 6 steps of the nursing process. The 6 steps of the nursing process coined with the terms of the new generation NCLEX plan. So when you are doing case studies, usually see that case studies follow the nursing process. The questions in the case studies usually follow the steps of the nursing process. So that is important for you to know. Now, the new test plan for 2026 is highly going to encourage and emphasize on clinical judgment. And so anything that tells you that it is going to encourage on clinical judgment, it is almost telling you that it might be a bit more difficult, because clinical judgment comes with critical thinking. So critical thinking means that questions cannot be straightforward. Yeah, they are not just knowledge questions. They are deeper questions where you will need to apply the knowledge to derive your answer. About the passing standard, this one has not yet been announced, but they promised that they are going to announce it in December. So we are already in December. Once we get new, if things are going to change, we are going to inform you. But even if things are going to change, it will not be a very big change. My prediction, according to the new updates that they have given out so far. And now, having all that information, what should we know as people who are preparing for the NCLEX? We need to know how to utilize the information that we have been given by NCSBN to prepare for the NCLEX examination. One of the most important things is on clinical judgment and critical thinking and case-based scenarios and patient safety. Now, patient safety has dominated NCLEX test plans for decades. NCLEX is a safety-based exam. They usually concentrate so much on safety. When it comes to case-based scenarios, when NCLEX was changing in 2023, the main purpose of the change, the NCSBN claimed that they wanted to make NCLEX as real-world related as possible. And that is why they brought in case studies. Before 2023 test plan, the other test plans did not have case studies. Now, in my observation, having taught people with the classic generation NCLEX and also the new generation NCLEX, is that the new generation NCLEX case studies are friendlier questions. They help nurses to pass the NCLEX easily than when you consider the NCLEX that was there before that didn't have case studies. So mine is to encourage then those who are revising for the NCLEX. You're gonna get so many marks if you pass those new generation long questions that are having more marks. I mean, if you crack those case studies, you are at a good place, because obviously case studies will be considered hard questions. And how do we pass NCLEX? We pass NCLEX by doing the hard questions. That is how we pass NCLEX. We don't pass NCLEX by getting more marks. We pass NCLEX by doing those hard questions. And you know, hard questions, you prompt the computer to give you hard questions by getting questions right. So even as you revise, I know sometimes you guys are so busy, so that if you find a case study, you might tell yourself, a case study is going to to require a lot of time from me. So let me just concentrate on standalone questions, and then I will revise case studies tomorrow. And then you find that a week has gone and you have not revised on case studies. So it is very important for you not to ignore anything as you study for NCLEX. Same case to pharmacology. Some people keep on postponing the study of pharmacology, revision of pharmacology. And some people get to think that pharmacology is too hard for them to fathom. But when you are revising for the NCLEX, you don't have an option. You must master all those concepts, because if the NCLEX computer realizes that you're not doing well with pharmacology, it is going to give you more questions on pharmacology. That computer behaves like a human being, a very serious human being. It realizes you're not doing well on pharmacology, it is going to give you more questions on pharmacology. Why? Because this computer must make a decision at 95% level of confidence. It cannot afford to make an error. It cannot afford to make a guessing decision. It must make a decision with evidence. All right? Now, clinical judgment, critical thinking. NCLEX is an exam of critical thinking. And therefore, if you go to do NCLEX and you answer questions the way you answered questions in your nursing school, you're not going to make it. One of the ways to ensure that you prepare yourself well is by doing as many questions in your question banks, in other sources of questions, as much as possible, so that you can master how concepts are tested using critical thinking and clinical judgment. Sound clinical judgment making decisions. So when we talk about passing NCLEX, we usually say that you pass NCLEX by mastering the content and the content is a product of concepts, and then knowing how to answer questions. That is NCLEX question answering strategies. And so you will not have a content book for clinical judgment and critical thinking. You will not have that. There is no NCLEX book that has been developed which gives you content on critical thinking and clinical judgment. Remember, these are concepts that can be tested in any topic in the NCLEX. Therefore, the best way to master clinical thinking, clinical judgment is by doing many questions and mastering how the concepts you learn under the content for NCLEX are being tested. And if you need assistance for that, then that is why we are there. For those of you who are in class, you are struggling with something like that, you need to get in touch with us. For those who are not in the Passcode program, we will also as well be very happy to take you through. We can go to the next slide. Now let's go to changes. This is what many people have asked about in the questions that I've been able to look at. Majority of you have questions to do with Trump policy changes. So President Trump has made some changes that obviously are going to affect professions, and the nursing profession may also be affected in a way or another. Now, out there's a lot of misinformation because there are people who rush to give information when they have not verified it. So the changes, for example, in professional degree, in quotes, have gotten people talking a lot. And actually, some made videos on TikTok saying that nurses will no longer go to the US because it has been categorized not to be a professional degree. Well, in as much as they said that, the opposite is actually true. The opposite is actually true, that it might actually create more opportunities for nurses to go to the US, especially specialized nurses in this case. Now, because nursing being removed from that list of professional degrees implicates funding for nursing, advanced nursing practice. And if it affects funding for nursing, then it goes on to create more shortages for specialized nurses in the US. Because then college in the US is very expensive. It may be difficult, it may prove difficult for anyone to go to school for advanced learning without student loans. And where does that leave you? It leaves you at a position where if you are able to access that education in a place that is not expensive and you're able to pay for yourself, or you're able to afford those student loans, then you can do that course and move to the US with your course, a specialized course. But then you have to check, because there are some specialized courses that are not recognized in the US. Then again, you have to consult on that to understand if you're planning to go to the US and you want to do a master's, for example, or you want to do a higher diploma in nursing, you want first of all to ask yourself, is it recognized in the US? Now that I am planning to go to the US, if I do this higher diploma in health records, for example, is it going to help me in the US? Okay. So even though there has been that change, the shortage of nurses remains high in the US, and the recognition of nursing as a professional and controlled profession, career, remains. The boards of nursing will continue operating and controlling nursing practice just the way they have been controlling it. And this will be, I think it will be all through human life. Nursing will remain to be a controlled profession, and some of these changes will not affect that. And a specialized career most of the professions that are highly regulated, which of course include professions in healthcare, I think they will be regulated forever, because then you cannot allow people who are not qualified to go into practice and start messing with people's lives. Okay, so this particular policy change does not affect nurse migration to the USA. It does not affect your process to the USA. And for those of you who already have jobs, and those of you who are in agents, I think your employers or your agents have already sent you emails clarifying. Some of the agents have actually sent emails clarifying that these changes will not affect nurse migration to the USA, because nurse migration to the USA is actually a product of demand for nurses, and it's not a product of categorization of the profession. Okay? So let's look at this in terms of question and answer. Number one, does the policy mean African international nurses cannot relocate? Of course not. And I think I have explained that. Is nursing still a profession in the US? I have explained that. Will NCLEX, USRN pathways, or work visas change? They will not change, because nurses will still need to do NCLEX, get license, get an employer, sign a contract, get a visa screen certificate, and get a priority date, and wait to be called to the embassy and move to the USA. Should therefore be worried, should you be worried and stop your immigration plan? You should not. Now, let me actually tell you this. It's not in the slides. As the talk continued about these changes, people, even in Kenya, those who are current, continued receiving dates. Yeah, I think last week I saw in a certain group, two people were given dates. Those were the ones who shared. Some people get dates and they don't share. So last week, on Wednesday and Thursday, I think, people received dates. They continued to go. And I also have a friend who relocated last week, but that person had received a H-1B visa before the increase in the fees. Now, the other change that I would like to talk about before we go to these other slides is the change with H-1B. So the change with H-1B, what happened is that the fees for H-1B visa were increased to 100,000 USD. And that was a big change. It was a major change. And obviously, it is going to affect nurse migration. How is it going to affect nurse migration? Is that employers that were funding for H-1B may not be very free to fund for it, because it is going to be expensive to them, very expensive to them. But the good thing is that majorly nurses have migrated to the US through the EB3 visa. In fact, the H-1B visa, now that the one that was affected, has moved nurses to the US, very few nurses to the US for the last 2 years. Because in 2023, that is when some agencies started filing for a few nurses with H-1B visa actually to test it. But going to 2025, a good number of agencies had started using H-1B visa. So as of now, the good thing is that employers for nurses are highly advocating, and there are high chances of success, because the policy that had an increase with the fees for H-1B visa had mentioned about critical professions that are important for the US. And therefore, they are working to ensure that nursing is outlined as one of those critical professions. And they are at advanced stages. I am privy to a particular communique that talked about the same. And we can only hope that once nursing is listed, then the fee is going to be waived for nurses. and then we can revert to H-1B. So H-1B visa allows nurses who are degree holders to be able to move to the US faster without the wait times that are needed for EB3 visa. But H-1B visa is not a migrant visa. It is a work visa that allows you to move there to work, but without a green card. However, you can convert to a green card while you are already working in the USA. Okay, so the very latest change that we should talk about also is the listing of countries that have been banned. Their immigrants or their people have been banned from moving to the US. Those countries have been listed, and there's a review for about 60 days, which means that after 60 days, that is when we are going to know whether they will continuously be limited, or they are going, or the review will be positive for those countries. I mean, some of the countries will be dropped. So it is upon you now to check. Of course, some of the countries where majority of nurses who are doing NCLEX are, like Kenya, are not on the list. And I think it is a relief. It is a relief to some of the nurses who had developed fears when the news about the ban came out. So it is something to be happy about. But at the same time, as Passcode Global Consultants, we know we have candidates from some of the countries that have been affected by the ban. Therefore, what we will say is that even if your country has been affected, you never know what is going to happen in the next 60 days after the review, or even in the future. Yeah. So the fact remains that the US needs nurses, and therefore nursing as of now is a very special profession. Okay. This is a slide about NCLEX registrations. I think I talked about it at the beginning, where we help you with selecting a board of nursing, credentialing processes, document verification, and Pearson VUE applications. For English proficiency excellence, we offer IELTS training, TOEFL, OET, depending on which one your agency has asked you to do. And then I think I will just say this briefly. We have many opportunities for nurses who want to work in Austria and Germany. We have many opportunities for nurses who want to work in Austria and Germany. We usually do webinars for German pathway alternately. And therefore, if you see us advertise our webinar for German pathway and you would be interested to do the German language to work there, then you can join that webinar. But this is what happens. If you are a nurse and you'd want to go and work in Germany, the only thing you need to do is German language. German language at Passcode. We do offer German language classes online, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Thursday. And we charge a fee of 25,000 Kenya shillings or $250 per level. You are supposed to do levels A1, A2, and B1. Those are 3 levels. And then the final exam with OSD or Goethe Institute is going to cost you about 24,000 Kenyan shillings. Once you have the language, your immigration to Germany takes about 4 or 6 months. And you are going to get an employer who is going to sponsor the immigration. You will be required to spend a few thousands on document translations. And these opportunities are ready. There are so many, we have so many slots, employers asking us to give them nurses who have language level B1. And just to emphasize, the only thing you need is the German language. However, for the German pathway, there is an age limit of 40 years. So this is a pathway that is limited to young nurses. Yeah, because of the age limit. The good thing usually about the US pathway is that there is no age limit. Okay. So I can see someone is asking about the pathway for what about Austria or New Zealand? I think maybe you might be confusing Australia. I talked about Austria. Austria and Germany, the process is the same. The pay is almost the same for Austria and Germany, not Australia. Australia and New Zealand, that's a different process, which I may not be able to talk about it in this webinar, but which we will be talking about in another webinar, probably next year. But just to mention is that Australia uses the same NCLEX that you guys are studying for. Australia uses that same NCLEX. And I will also say that the process of moving to Australia is quite expensive. That being one of the reasons why not many people go to Australia. We can do a webinar to talk about that. Actually, even as you talk to us on the chat box, you should also be talking to us about the next webinar. What do you want us to talk about? Okay. Shamsa is asking, are there opportunities in Australia and Canada? Yeah, we are going to talk about those. Yes, they are, and we are going to talk about them in the next webinar. So, go to Germany or Austria, you need German language proficiency level of B1. So you are starting with the lowest level, which is called A1, A2, then you go to A2, then you go to B1. For those of you who studied German language in high school, we will give you an A1 exam. If you pass that A1 exam, you can start at A2. You don't have to start at A1 because you already have those basics. Okay. So just to inform you, for those who are joining our NCLEX review intake and German language classes, that the class for next year is starting on Monday, January 12th. Monday, January 12th. That is when our NCLEX review class for next year is starting, and also the German language class is starting. So as some of the nurses move to the US, we will have other nurses moving to Germany. And I would also want to inform you that if you move to Germany and you would still want to continue with the US process, the beauty of it is that Passcode will be able to guide you through even when you are in Germany. Okay. So back to you, moderator. I think I have exhausted what I had on the presentation. So maybe we will allow now our guest, and I'll get back to answer the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Humphrey, for the session. Indeed, it has been so insightful. I believe most of our questions have been answered, and all our doubts, most of our doubts also have been cleared. Anything to, if you still have any questions, please keep them coming. We will be answering them soonest. And then our time also has been very much well spent. I think we'll have Susan sharing now her journey on NCLEX with us at Passcode. Please promote her to a panelist so that she can now take the stage. Susan, she's in the meeting already. Humphrey, please promote Susan so that she can be able to talk. She's unable to share her experience.
Okay, I've already done that, Mary Sylvia. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe she has a technical hitch. She prepares to join us and do her presentation. Okay, she's already joined.
Mary Sylvia, if you can hear me, we didn't hear your last statement, so I think maybe Susan did not get you right.
Susan, karibu sana to this webinar. We're waiting for you. Kindly unmute yourself and share with us.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I'm Susan Chemaswet, currently USRM, under the mentorship of Passcode Global, which I'm proud of. First and foremost, I applaud you all for joining Passcode. You are in the right place, and you want to get joining Passcode Global. I'm going to share my journey on NCLEX preparation until I did my exam with Passcode. First, I joined Passcode on September 2024, and Passcode guided me on registrations, which was smooth. Then I did all preparations under the Passcode until March when I start for my exams. And before that, I had gotten a job offer by an employer from Texas, still under the mentorship of Passcode. So what I'll encourage for those who are preparing to sit for the exam is, first, plan yourself well, because you'll have to sacrifice a lot so that you can make it. Utilize the materials given by Passcode. If you're having any concerns pertaining the revision, the tutors we have in Passcode are friendly. Anytime you consult them, they'll not turn you down. They respond swiftly. Also, when it comes to job hunting, Passcode Global are the best. They'll guide you on every step that you're supposed to know before signing any contract. So personally, I'll not regret joining the Passcode Global, and I'll still invite more friends to join Passcode, because so far I have 4 friends who are under Passcode Global and all are doing well. So I still encourage you to tell a friend not to waste his or her time somewhere else, yet Passcode are doing the best in mentoring new people. Yeah, thank you.
So maybe Susan, before you exit,
Yes.
maybe I can share with you some of the questions that the candidates ask me a lot when we are helping them. You realize
Yes.
that majority of the people here are working, or they are married, or they have children. I mean, this is adult planning. So the big question I usually get, how do you manage time? Maybe you can share how you managed your time to create enough time for studies, because passing NCLEX is not a miracle. You have to invest a lot of time. So maybe you can share how you managed time.
Okay, on my side, there are recordings being offered by Passcode, and when the classes are on and I'm on duty, of course I'll not be able to attend. I used to create time after work, that is the 2 hours for listening to recordings. And then if I have questions on the areas I've not understood, I had requested to be assigned as tutor, which Humphrey did, and I used to consult the tutor every now and then. And thank God the tutor assigned to me was very friendly. Whenever I I ask anything pertaining the revision, he used to guide me. So what I can tell you is, so long as you've done the planning of your duty, you compare your duty roster and the schedules for classes, and then your free times, delegate what you're supposed to do as a work at work, do your work, finish at it. Then during your free time, you ensure you listen to the whole recording, because once you miss the recordings, even if you go to other materials, it will be hard for you to get the content. And with NCLEX, it's all about the content. If you don't have the content, you'll still not be able to answer these questions. Yes.
So, thank you so much. Another question that candidates who are preparing for NCLEX ask me a lot is, how do you handle the hard topics? Because you realize that there's someone who has studied very well, they're doing very well on the question bank, then maternity is becoming a problem to them. Another person has problems with pharmacology. Another person has problem with endocrine system. So for you, how did you handle the hard topics that you're able to narrow down to?
Okay, on my side, I used to do the question bank, and then after finishing all the questions, I revise them one by one. I identify the areas I still need to revise. After identifying those areas that I had weakness, I had to consult my mentor, whom I'd been assigned. The mentor used to guide me, because once you've identified those areas, it will be easier for you and the mentor to work on them. And that needs planning also, because if you are not well planned, you will not be able to identify the areas that you still need to improve. I will encourage the candidates to utilize the question bank on specific areas. Like, let's say on my side, I used to do specific client need area. Like today, when it comes to management of care, I do questions related to management of care. I go through them all. I see my performance. If I've not understood, I'll still do the same area while consulting with the mentor. And that's how I manage to get all the content.
Okay. Thank you so much, Susan, and congratulations for passing your NCLEX, even for the thank you for the opportunity accepting to come and share with the others. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask you that I'm not the moderator, but I wanted to ask you that question because majority of the candidates ask me.
Okay.
Okay. Back to you, moderator. So, Mary Sylvia, I don't know whether you are in.
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, please go ahead. We are back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your journey with us. We believe someone has really encouraged, and karibu sana to Passcode for those who are looking into migrating to the USA for the practice their nursing career. Just as Susan has said, it's all possible and we can all do it if we are that determined. Then we will go right away to questions and answers. I'll take some, and I believe Humphrey will also take some. So I'll first start by those that are directed to those that Humphrey will answer. So there's a question from someone who is asking, after passing the NCLEX exam, do we go through the usual retrogression period like others who are then sponsored? That one, Humphrey, please answer that.
Okay.
And then after passing my NCLEX exam, can I apply for either Germany or Switzerland? How long does it take for relocation? also you can answer that. And then there's another question that had been asked here. SATA questions, how are they scored? For example, there are 4 correct answers, but you choose 3 answers. Do you get a mark or not? Yeah, please answer that as we also gather some more. And then also speak, we can also talk about wording change. I think that by the time you're presenting, there's someone who did not get it well. So he's asking wording change means what? So on the test plan that is coming up from 1st of April, please answer those as we also prepare for more.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll start with the first question on retrogression. So what you guys need to know is that what retrogresses is the visa. The visa that is taking you to the US is the one that retrogresses. But of course, your employer or your agency can affect whether your process is going to be delayed further than normal. How can they affect that? Now, I want to talk about 1, how they can affect that, and 2, the visa that takes nurses to the US. Let me start with the visa. Nurses move to the US through a visa called EB3, Employment-Based Visa Category 3. That is the visa that moves nurses to the US. Now, every financial year, the US government allocates about 140,000 EB3 visas every financial year. These 140,000 EB3 visas are not for nurses only, are not for your country only. They are for the whole world and for all the professionals that move to the US using the EB3 visa. So you can see that actually in that categorization, nurses are at category 3, meaning that we have other professions like the technologists who are at category 1. And so if you divide 140,000 to all the countries that we have in the world, the policy is actually that no country should get more than 7% of the 140,000. So you will come to realize that in one particular country, they give like 2,000 visas per year, which is, as of now, considering the number of nurses who want to move, it is a drop in the ocean. And that is why people have to wait for 2, sometimes going to 3 years for them to migrate. It is not the immigration processing that takes long. It is the waiting time for you to get an available visa. Because when we're talking about 2024, 2025 financial year, once they have given the visas for that financial year, even if there are more people waiting to be given, they cannot issue what is not available. So they only issue the visas that are available. That is why I usually find that as we move towards October, there is always retrogression because the financial year for the US ends in September, starts in October. So we usually wait for October to see new things coming up. So when you do with Passcode, sorry? You saying something? So when you do entries with Passcode, you are still going to go to the US currently with the EB3 visa. And therefore means, yes, you will be affected by retrogression if it will be there. because it is the visa that is affected. And the good thing is that now with this visa, they usually follow a first come, first served basis. So that someone who did with Passcode or someone who went through the agency, they are equal in the eyes of the embassy. It is not possible for anyone to influence. So what now, let me go to the next thing, because I said I'll talk about two things. The next thing is how your agency can influence your delay. So your agency can influence your delay if they do not do things that they are supposed to do faster after you have passed your NCLEX or even before you do your NCLEX. For example, if you have an agency assisting you to do NCLEX and they do not do your registrations, they do not fast track your registrations, it means that you cannot meet your targets in terms of timelines. You understand? Now, once you have passed NCLEX, your employer is supposed to process for you I-140 immigration petition very fast so that you can get an approval. And once you get an approval, the date when your immigration petition was filed, the I-140 petition, becomes your priority date. Now, that priority date is like a waiting ticket. It is what shows where you are in the waiting line. For example, right now, the people who had their I-140 petition filed April 2023, they are the ones who are moving to the US right now. They are the ones who are being called to the embassy. So the scenario is like this. If we do NCLEX with you today, and my employer files my I-140 petition by January 2026, but the employer delays to file, you see, we have done NCLEX the same day we have passed. Your employer delays to file your I-140 petition until around March. Then my priority date will be January 2026. Your priority date will be March 2026. And therefore, that means that I will be called to the embassy before you. Okay? So I think I've answered that question. Go briefly. Next question is someone is asking if they can do NCLEX and then they process the German pathway. The best way to answer that question is to say that we would like to narrow down to individual. So maybe you can get in touch with us. We'll be able to discuss, because now for me to advise someone on such an issue, we have to look at many things. Yeah. Do you have a stable job where you are in the first place? What is the size of your family? You are looking to stay in Germany for how long, so that we can help you to make an informed decision, which then you will be able to support once you have made it. However, it is possible for you to complete your NCLEX and still process German as you wait because of the long wait time for the US process. Let me go to word change, then I go to SATA. Word change that I talked about in the NCLEX 2026 test plan is just an additional word prevention. So instead of safety and infection control, it will be safety and infection prevention and control. So it is just an additional word that has been introduced in one domain for NCLEX client needs categories. So SATA questions, how they are graded. Now, select other apply questions. In the new generation NCLEX, they are called multiple response questions. They are graded in terms of plus or minus. It is called rational scoring. Rational scoring. So let's say, for example, that you have a SATA question with 5 options, but the answers are 3. Since I'm not illustrating, please listen carefully on this. Let's say you have a SATA question with 5 options. The answers are 3. Okay. So if, let me actually, I think I can illustrate. Let me see. Select or that apply. So you have been asked a question, and then they have told you select all that apply. A, like that. B like that. Then you have C. Then you have D. Then you have E. Okay. So let's say the correct answers. This is a SATA question. You have been told to select all that apply. Let's assume the correct answers are A, B, and C. A, B, and C are the correct answers. We are assuming. So let me mark them green. So let's say the correct answers are A, B, and C. So let me give you student one. Student one gives their answers as A, B. This student in this question will get 0 marks. Then we have student B, student number 2. Student number 2 gives their answer as A, B, A, B, C. This student will get 1 mark out of the 3 marks. Then we have student 3, who gives the answer as B, C, D. This student will get 3 marks. Then we have student 4, who will give the answer as B, C, D, and then this student looks at A, debates it, and includes it there. So this student will get 2 marks. Now let me explain. Rational scoring, you have to get all of them. Or let me give you another scenario. Student 5. Give the answer as C, D. C, D only. This student will get marks. Okay, so let me now explain. In rational scoring, you have to get all but the correct only to get a full mark for that question. So if you give all correct, you mix with incorrect, you get negative marks. So let's look at student 1. Student 1 gave A, got -1, and B got +1. So +1 minus 1 is 0. So that student ends with -1. Ends with 0. Let me give you another scenario. Student 6. This was student 5. I hope you can see my screen. Student 6 gives answers as A, E. This student will end up getting 0. Okay. Now, student 2, A, B, C. B and C, they got 2 marks. A -1, because of giving a wrong one, they end up with 1 mark. Student 3 gave the correct answers only, so they get the 3 marks. Student 4 gave 3 correct answers, so they got 3 points, and 1 wrong, so -1, they get 2. Student 5 gave CD, which are correct, 2 correct answers, they got 2. So you can see that student 5 is not being penalized for leaving 1 correct answer. But student 4 got all the correct answers, but because they included a wrong answer, they are being penalized. Now, student 6, AE, gave only the wrong answers, so they are supposed to be having -2. However, the NCLEX does not give negative results. So that is why this person, instead of having -2, they will then have 0 as the answer. So I think I have been able to answer the 4 questions that was given. So back to you, Mary Sylvia.
Thank you so much for answering the questions very well. I think there are some more that have come in, and I'll just read to you and read for you so that you can also you can keep answering. So one is asking, Sally is asking, can I choose the H1B visa option if I can afford to pay for it by myself? Then there's John who is asking, can one relocate to the US after passing the NCLEX alone, or it's mandatory that one should do both the NCLEX and IELTS or OET? Then
please repeat the one for the second question.
Can I relocate to the US after passing NCLEX alone, or is it is mandatory that one should write both NCLEX and IELTS or OET exam? That's the question number 2. And then Mina is also asking, can I do NCLEX exams first and then apply for an agency? And then there's Violet who is asking, which specialized courses are not recognized in the US kindly? Yeah, please answer those as we also keep receiving more questions.
Was question number 1 just a clarification? Was it about the visa, H1B?
Yeah, H1B visa. She was asking, that was Sally, can I choose the H1B visa option if I can afford to pay for it by myself?
Okay, and question number 3, you were breaking a little bit, so I did not get it well.
No, it was just a comment from someone who is eagerly waiting to share her testimony. And then the question was, another question from Amina was asking, can I do NCLEX exams first and then apply for the agency?
Then apply for an agency?
Yeah, after passing the NCLEX.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So let me start with the question from Amina.
Yeah, and then there's also one who is asking, when does how long does the CGFNS report take to expire?
Okay, so the CGFNS report expires in 1 year. I've answered that.
Yeah.
And IELTS. You cannot migrate to the US with NCLEX only. You need also IELTS. So it is mandatory for now because of the immigration process. So you have to do it. Specialized courses. I may not be able to give you a comprehensive list about recognition. But what I would encourage is that if you have to do an additional course on nursing, a specialized course on nursing, aiming to have that course help you in the US, then you would rather do a clinically based course. By clinically based course, I mean those courses that deal directly with the patient, like critical care nursing. Obviously, that is going to help you a lot. A course like renal nursing, going to help you a lot. Now, when you look at a course like anesthesia, when you are a nurse in Kenya, for example, if I may use an example of Kenya, at a diploma level or a degree level, you can do a higher diploma in anesthesia, and you become a nurse anesthetist. However, if you go to the US, you will not be able to practice as a nurse anesthetist in the US because the regulations are different. So that is a whole topic that we may need to talk about another day. But I have summarized it by saying, do a clinically based course that is in the line of nursing directly. For the person who asked whether they can pay for the H-1B visa if you can afford. Yes, I don't think it is a big issue. It will be just a matter of talking to your employer and you tell them you are willing to pay for yourself and they will petition it for you. So since the only issue is a matter of money, I believe they will be very much be willing. I think there is one question I forgot. So if you can remember it, I'll be happy to answer it. Someone is asking about the recordings. Yes, we are going to give a recording for this presentation. And you can be able to interact with it after. Someone is asking about our fees for NCLEX. Our fees for NCLEX, we charge a fee of 30,000 Kenyan shillings for a period of 4 months, or $300 for those who are not Kenyans for a period of 4 months. Someone is asking about the Australian process. We will probably have a webinar to talk about the Australian process, but I said the NCLEX you are doing is the same that you would use to do the Australian process. So if you're already in the NCLEX process, just continue with the NCLEX process and make sure to pass the NCLEX. The big difference is that for Australia, a number of countries are usually listed in a different class. They have class A and class B for countries. So for class B countries, the process is a bit expensive because you have to sponsor another exam called OSCE. OSCE is a practical exam, yeah, so which you have to go and do in Australia. And that exam costs close to 4,000 US dollars, not US, but 4,000 Australian dollars. And you have to fund yourself, go do it there because you have to go do it physically. So the process becomes quite expensive to do self-sponsored program. And we don't, in Australia, there are not many agents willing to sponsor. You see, like for the US, once you have done, even when you do NCLEX as a self-sponsored candidate, employers sponsor the immigration process fully sponsoring, full sponsorship. So the money aspect is a bit a challenge for the Australian process, but for those who are willing to sponsor themselves, money going to close to $10,000 USD, then it is a very viable process. But I think we will have a webinar to talk about it exhaustively, just for the sake of information and those who want to do the process.
Yeah, thank you so much, Humphrey. I can see there's still more questions that are coming in and our time is very well spent. So we still have at least 15 minutes and then we can wrap up our webinar. So there's someone who is asking, can I start my journey immediately? I have graduated without employment. And what are the requirements I need to have in terms of the documents and finances? That is Evelyn who is asking that. There's another one who is asking, do you relocate nurses to Canada? Just as we've shared, we will have another webinar to talk about that, the Australia pathway and Canada as well. And then what are some of the things to look for when it comes to question banks? That is from Mercy. I think, Humphrey, you can answer those two questions. Some of the things to look for in the question bank. And then there was someone who was asking, how can you know that this is a hard question and that the computer will take it as a hard question? Like there was a question like that. Like how can they tell that this is a hard question when they're doing the exam? Or maybe so that they can get those chances of passing the NCLEX. They can be able to target the hard questions. So if you can ask, just tell us a little about the questions, how to detect the hard questions and the easy question.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll start with the issue of hard questions and simple questions when it comes to NCLEX. Unfortunately, when you go to do your exam, you'll not be able to see the computer telling you whether this is hard or easy question. But the good thing is that when you're using your question bank, you'll be able to see which are the hard questions, medium levels of difficulty, and simple questions. So one of the ways of preparing for NCLEX is actually using a question bank. And that is why in our program, we usually say that a question bank is a mandatory tool for NCLEX preparation. It helps you with those skills. So with a good use of the question bank, you'll be able to detect which types of questions we call hard. But in a nutshell, questions that are a bit complex, like SATA questions, case studies, bow tie questions, drag and drop questions are considered hard. Although we also have a number of standalone questions that integrate complex critical thinking that are also categorized as hard questions. A straightforward question will just be like what you are getting in college. It will be testing knowledge, and it will be an easy question. IELTS, the best time to do IELTS is after you have done your NCLEX. So actually at Passcode, we encourage our students to start with NCLEX, because once you do NCLEX and pass, NCLEX does not expire. But if you start with the NCLEX, IELTS expires after 2 years. So we do not want a situation where your IELTS expires, then you start doing it again. The question on question bank, what are some of the things to look for when it comes to question bank? I don't know whether you are talking about when you are considering to buy a question bank. I think that is what you're asking. And when you want to buy a question bank, you want to see how is this question bank performing in the market? Has it been done by people who consider peer reviewing? Because nowadays, someone can go to ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT to generate NCLEX questions, and it is going to generate NCLEX questions. But what will be the quality of those questions? Of course, the questions are not going to be quality. Yeah. So for good question banks, you will find that the questions have been developed by a panel of experts, not one person. Even those question banks that are done by just one person, I would encourage you to actually avoid them, because there is no person who is a custodian of knowledge by themselves alone. So if they develop NCLEX questions, they don't subject them to peer review, they cannot be having knowledge on NCLEX topics in all the topics. Yeah, even me, when it comes to NCLEX at Passcode, you find that I don't teach all the topics. Yeah, we have some of our tutors who can do better than me in some of the topics. And when it comes to those topics, we usually give them to teach. So question bank, peer-reviewed question banks are usually the best. You'll find that their questions have been developed by different people, and they have been subjected to a peer review process, such that if you would have a forum of asking them how they develop those questions, they will be able to tell you. And for some of the question banks that we have been using, we have found a very good correlation with the performance on the question bank and performance on the NCLEX. For some of those question banks that have been developed by just a single person, you'll find that even the correlation is lacking. When it comes, people can perform very well in those question banks. When they go to do the NCLEX, they fail. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Our time is very well much spent, so I think we will answer. We will keep following and answering the questions that are still coming. At this point, allow me to just share a few insights, and also to answer a few questions that have been still coming in. So there's someone who is asking, do you relocate nurses to Canada? So my question would be yes, and please, we will be able to share this in our next webinar that is in next year. We will share the dates and also the links for you to register. Then there's someone who is asking which specialized courses are not recognized in the US kindly. I think this one I'll allow Humphrey to answer that. Then there's someone who is asking, is India among the countries that have been banned? We also say that please, we will share all the information once the list is not yet complete, so we're not allowed to share which country has been banned at this point. But as soon as we get the right information and the true information, we'll be able to share that. Then someone who is asking, is it possible to complete a question bank in 1 month before sitting for exam? I will say depends with how much time do you have, how much time have you created for revision. But you can do it. I believe if you have all that the zeal and you're ready and you're just preparing for the exam, then yes, you can do it. So Humphrey will just answer the questions, that one question, and the other question will be answering as we will get all the questions answered as we upload the recordings and as we share them. So kindly answer that, then I'll wrap up the webinar then. I'll end the webinar.
Which specific question do you want me to answer?
There's someone who has asked. Let me go back to the question. Oh, there's one here. Can you talk about EB2 and are nurses eligible? That is one. Then there's another, and then the final question from Violet is saying, which specialized courses are not recognized in the US? So those two, only two.
I already answered the question about specialized courses. So
Okay.
I'll do the one for EB2. So, so I said the visa that carries nurses to the US is EB3 visa. Now, for EB3 visa, employment-based visa category 3, it has to be sponsored by an employer. You have to have an employer as a sponsor. And sponsoring here does not mean money. It means you have a destination, a specific destination that you are going to, and a specific purpose that you're going to do in the US, whereby the destination is where the employer has given you work, and the purpose is that you're going to work. Now, for the EB2, there's not much difference between EB2 and EB3, but the difference is for the EB2, you can sponsor yourself. So that, like, if you have the money and you think you want to sponsor yourself as to be a permanent resident in the US and you meet the requirements, which basically mean that you must be a professional, then you can sponsor yourself and move to the US without a specific employer sponsoring your process. That's the only difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Humphrey. I think we now have come to the end of our webinar. What I'll say is that for those who are looking for a college or an agency where they can be able to review their NCLEX program, I believe your search has come to an end, and please join us. Our next intake is coming in January 12th. The registration is ongoing. So please, we have a form that we are currently registering and booking slots for those who are willing to join the January class. Kindly fill the form so that we get all your details and engage you more. And finally, as we come to the end of this webinar, I'd just like to sincerely thank each one of you for taking your time to join us. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for engaging. And you have really made this session truly meaningful. We hope that the discussion has been helpful and informative. Also, please feel free to reach out to us. We have already shared our social links on the chat box. Kindly follow us, and also our numbers are there. Call us so that we can engage you for more information, and also those who are looking into joining the program. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening. All the best in your USRN journey. We can live at our own leisure.